Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin. Hey, you're listening to Concerts That Made Us, the podcast for music lovers. I'm your host Brian, and I'm here to guide you through the next hour of concert experiences. Before we get into it though, rate and review us on iTunes. And if you want to stay up to date on everything that is Concerts That Made Us, head over to our website at www.concertsthatmadeus.com. There you'll find everything from our latest episodes to our merch and much, much more. And if you want to contact the show, you can do so by sending an email to brian@concertsthatmadeus.com. If you've any concert stories, concert videos, anything to do with music at all, we'd love to see them. Now I'm excited to announce that this week's guest is Jack from Bad Counsel. If you haven't listened to Bad Counsel yet, you're really missing out. In fact, when you finish this episode, head over there and check out some of their episodes. Then come back here and thank me, because I know it's going to be your next favourite podcast. So I can't wait for you to hear the wild stories that Jack has, so without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hey Jack, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Hey man, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you. I'm a massive fan of your podcast, so it's great to get at least one of you on the show.
You know what? It's fun. All of us are huge music guys, so I would be shocked if you don't end up with at one point or another all of us on the show. To be honest with you, but I'm glad you enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to do. Those guys and girl are very a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah. I was actually listening to your latest episode today in work, and I don't think I've laughed so much. I can't remember the last time I laughed so much, like some of the stories. So do you want to tell the listeners actually a bit about your podcast, if any of them haven't heard it, before we go further deeper into it?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, and it's a lot of fun. You hear me laughing throughout it, obviously, and that's all legitimate. I mean, again, part of putting it together was just to entertain myself, to be real. It's so we are Bad Counsel is the name of the show, and myself, Tim, Greg, and Katie. There's four of us, and we essentially take questions via social media, email, telephone, voicemail, and we try to give advice, not good advice. We again, it's Bad Counsel. So yeah, we have a lot of fun with it. We try to come up with some crazy stuff, and really, yeah, it's all about having fun, laughing, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of it. Yeah.
Oh, you definitely are. And it wouldn't be like run-of-the-mill questions you get either. Like, would it? Like, there was one on the episode I was listening to today. It was a roommate had smelly balls. Like
we so yeah. So we so the three of us, myself, Tim, and Greg, we've known each other for a while, me and Tim for 20 something years. So we actually did another very bad show years ago, and really just to kind of practice. We knew we wanted to do it. We knew it was something we wanted to get into eventually. It was a good way for us to just kind of start and play around with it. So it was horrible. It was surrounding our fantasy baseball league that we've run for 20 something years. So very boring to us. But again, we learned a lot. It was little by little, it kind of grew, and eventually we started trying to bridge out a little bit. And really the very first concept of this show, Bad Counsel, came from that show. And it was Greg answering a question and giving not only his advice on something, but then going into a story. And just again, Greg, very funny guy. His delivery, his cadence, his pace, just he entertains the shit out of me. And then Tim, was just always been phenomenal at what he does at not only hosting the show but putting it together, all the work in the background. And so, long story short, that show came to an end. And but I knew that ultimately I wanted to ride these two guys' coattails is how the show came to be. I knew how much talent the two of them had, and I knew that I had to figure out a way to put it together. And essentially it's what I did. I wanted to create a stage to where I thought we would be able to use some of our talents and experiences to share. And little by little, that's kind of what we put together with Bad Counsel. The three of us got together. Katie obviously came along, after the fact, and really she was there the whole time, but kind of got into the forefront after the fact. And we're really, camaraderie is huge. Our chemistry is huge, and it's legitimate. Like it really is like we're sitting around a table, just bullshitting on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I think that's big.
Yeah, it really does come across, even as a listener. Like, you forget you're listening to a podcast. It feels like you're in the room having a laugh with friends, Yep. And that's one of the best things about listening,
And I appreciate that. We appreciate hearing that. That was, when we sat down and talked about the first concepts of it, that was a big deal for Tim specifically. And he wanted to make sure that we had that feeling, that we had that, hanging out with your friends kind of vibe. And it, like I said, it seems to come across. And it's not something we had to create. It's just something we had to make sure that we didn't get away from, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to ask before we move on to the music and concerts.
No, absolutely.
What's the craziest thing you've heard so far? Because I'm sure you've heard some pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we, Tyler is a regular caller. I'm sure if you listen to the show, you've heard Tyler from New Hampshire. Yeah. That guy's a regular caller. At everything that happens with the show, I think that's what gets me the most excited when I know that Tyler called. Personally, I know that we're going to have a good show that week. And that guy has, from shitting himself to a potential threesome with his, I think it was wife and mother-in-law that he's just, it's unbelievable that he continues to, exist, really, to be honest with you. But, that we get some crazy stuff. So the first, handful of shows we had, some normal questions, and we still do get some normal questions, and we try to field them all, fairly. Some of these I'm sure are, some of our friends, people we know, whatever. Some of them get a little outrageous, I'll be honest with you. I think, the one you mentioned, the roommate that specifically thought their roommate's balls smelled weird or funny. And in the question, if you listen to the question, they said, "Don't ask why I know that." Well, you know what? That's kind of a big deal here. Like, if you, to be able to specifically point out a body part and how bad it smells, chances are you got to be close to it at some point. So
like they're leaving out a major part of the detail there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we've gotten everything from dominating an old folks home to, to a boss with a constant boner to, we do get a lot of the off the wall stuff, off the beaten path, the sex, drugs and craziness. But like I said, we try to treat, all of them, not well, but fair. We're consistent.
Well, keep up the great work, because I'd actually be lost without having you guys to listen to. It really brightens my day, especially in work.
I appreciate that. We like I said, it's good to hear. It's it's fun for us. It's for me, it's therapy for me. It's once a week. I get to get on there and just, let loose and yeah, it's a lot of fun to do. I don't know what I'd do without it myself. So hopefully, hopefully we keep doing it for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And all of you recently launched your own IG pages linked to the show as well. And that brings us to how this interview came about. You have some awesome pictures on your IG.
I've been lucky. I've fallen into some good situations. I've had an eventful path, and yeah, I've been able to capture some pretty cool experiences, over the years. So, and yeah, to be able to share that here and there is pretty cool. Yeah, and our Instagram is phenomenal. Again, Bad Counsel. Greg kind of handles the majority of it. Honestly, our Instagram, in my opinion, is as entertaining as the show is. At least it is for me. So yeah, I have. Yeah, I've been able to from getting into music when I was very young. I got lucky and stumbled into a job in entertainment and sports, which got me into a lot of opportunities as well. So yeah, it's been a pretty cool path.
Mm. This'll bring us nicely on to the music section. So, what's your earliest musical memory?
My very first the first music that I remember owning and is a Kiss album. It was Gene Simmons' solo album, and I was young. My parents were a little weird. Now, I learned later that they didn't that they weren't great at parenting. But even when I was young, I had a boa constrictor when I was 6, and I just don't remember wanting a boa constrictor. I just had one. So I like I said, I had Gene Simmons' solo album. I want to say 6, 7 years old. I was pretty young. But as far as musical memory, I think the first real musical memory I have was hearing Queen's "We Will Rock You" for the first time. The first time that I heard that song, and just the stomping and the clapping and there was just something about it. It was different from everything else I had heard up till that point, and it definitely sparked my interest in general in music and in rock and roll for sure.
Yeah, the first song that really resonated with you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yep.
It must have set the foundations for your taste in music in the future. So how would you describe your musical tastes?
Now at this point in my life, I'm happy to say that I'm pretty diverse. I've learned a lot over the years, some not too long ago, but so I've been able to expound a lot. At the time, I was very focused on rock and roll. Like I said, Kiss was a huge thing for me when I was little. Again, 6, 7, 8 years old. The makeup and the guitars and they had that silly ass show on NBC, I think back then was horrible. But again, when I was 7, 8 years old, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, rock for sure. I was into Kiss quite a bit for a while. Again, anything that kind of had that I'm a big power chord guy. AC/DC later on, Van Halen. And then the early 80s, I kind of got into, started spreading out a little bit, got into a little bit of the heavier stuff, got into some of the hair bands as well. Kind of went in a couple of different directions. Yeah, absolutely. But mostly rock, metal for quite some time. Later on, I met a guy, didn't do a whole lot for me in my existence otherwise, but he did a lot for me as far as music and musical education. And, I was the guy that up until that point, Motley Crue's Helter Skelter was better than the Beatles as far as I was concerned.
Right.
So he helped kind of educate me, diverse me a little bit. I got into the Beatles quite a bit at that point, some of the older stuff, and learned a lot more about music through him. So I'm not huge on country.
Hmm.
Some of the harder hardcore rap I can, leave or take. But other than that, mainly metal, rock. But I got a little diversity.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say we actually have very similar music tastes, so it sounds like I was just describing my musical taste there.
Nice, nice, very cool, very cool.
So the first concert you were ever at?
Yeah, so the first show I ever went to was it was Motley Crue, and again must have been 12, 13. I did a lot of stuff young. I learned a lot of stuff when I was young. I had a pretty eventful existence as a youth. But yeah, young, we were actually, it was me and a buddy, and his big brother drove us to the show and dropped us off. He wasn't even going to stay with us, just dropped us off. But on the way, he whipped out a joint and lit it up and said, "Hey, you guys smoke?" And we, of course, said, "Yeah, sure we do." And no, we didn't smoke at that point,
Yeah.
So we sat there and smoked a joint on the way to the Motley Crue show with his big brother. And then he dropped us off and we were high as hell. And, but yeah, it was a good show, Motley Crue. And it wasn't their best tour, unfortunately. It was that Theater of Pain tour. But Motley Crue and Autograph, I believe, was the opening band for him.
That must have been some experience overall, though. Your first concert and your first time being high then as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. It, like I said, music had a big impact on my life continuously and for different reasons as my life kind of went on. And, a big part of rock and roll's attraction to me was the the attitude and the sex and the drugs and the hot chicks. And yeah, that was, and I'm not sure I've gotten out of that yet. So
I like to think you don't ever have to get out of it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Immaturity is a word that boring people use to describe interesting people, in my opinion.
That's it. Exactly. Have you got to see Motley Crue again since?
I've seen them a handful of times. So as I said, I've had some pretty cool experiences, and one of those is I actually worked in sports here in Florida, in Orlando and in Jacksonville, and started in arena football. And I ended up actually being able to manage a few luxury suites at the Amway Center in Orlando. So I had a lot of opportunities there, and I have seen Motley Crue a couple of times since then. Each time that I've seen them, I've been a little more let down, and then the last time I saw them, honestly, I walked out. I actually walked out. I haven't walked out of a lot of concerts in my life, man. I love live music. You got to really, upset me to get me to walk out, but I did. It was just, from where it started, and you know what I mean? I understand a lot of years have passed, but
yeah,
sometimes it's better to just stop. And then oddly enough, I continued my career in sports for a little bit, and I was the general manager of the team here in Jacksonville, and we can go into it a little bit later if you want, but basically when I was in Orlando, we hosted the championship game there, and I actually put on the game, and part of it was that we're going to put on a concert, and so we went through a few different bands. We finally decided on who it was going to be, and I was shocked to find out that Kiss was the band that we were going to put on.
Oh man!
And we can, like I said, if you want to talk about it a little bit later, that's fine. But I essentially ended up helping produce a Kiss concert in Orlando. It was phenomenal. It was such a cool experience. Anyway, they ended up, after that concert, they ended up getting into arena football, and they bought a team and actually played for a couple of years out in LA. It was the Los Angeles Kiss, Paul and Gene. And a couple of years later, I had moved on to Jacksonville, and I guess Vince Neil must have got jealous. I don't know, but he decided he wanted to get a team.
Oh
And
man.
in doing so, the league suggested that he come to Jacksonville and buy into the Jacksonville team, which is the team I ran, and kind of try to learn some stuff from us before starting his new team, which was to be in Las Vegas.
Right.
And so he did. And so all of a sudden I'm like hanging out with Vince Neil in like business meetings and teaching Vince Neil how to run a football team essentially. So yeah, again, another cool experience. However, like I said, by that time, unfortunately I had kind of lost a lot of respect for the guy on the music end and shit. So, but still, kind of cool to end up hanging out in a work atmosphere with the guy that was, on stage at your first concert ever. Yeah.
Jesus. We know how he is as a musician. How is he at running football teams?
We gave him a lot of suggestions. He listened to none of them. And the Kiss obviously knows what the hell they're doing in business, right? Those guys have dominated marketing for many years. I mean, when you're a rock band and you have Hello Kitty dolls with your logo on them, you're doing something right. They lasted about 2 years, 3 years in the league. Again, everybody wanted to do it, but they didn't want to learn how to do it. Vince didn't even care. He lasted a year. His team came, he didn't do what we told him to do, and he was done. He lost money and he moved on. So yeah, not like I said, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but
yeah. So
not a horrible guy.
The whole rock star thing then isn't just a persona; it runs a bit deeper than that, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it the Arena Football League is like a secondary league here in the States, so a lot of the folks that want to do that stuff and can't, like John Bon Jovi actually owned a team at one point. So there's been some, the whole idea of rock stars being involved has been there for a while. And it's a kind of a rock and roll atmosphere, the arena games. It's more of a entertainment than it is just straight football.
Yeah.
So like I said, it made sense, but yeah, Kiss, when they got involved, it was cool. They had, girls in cages coming down from the rafters before the game. It was, fire and fireworks. It was pretty neat. Yeah.
Oh man, but they've always been like that. They're experts at stage shows and putting on a show, no matter what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so as I said, I was in Orlando, and we knew we were going to host the championship game there. And we were talking about, let's do a concert before, and we'll do kind of a whole weekend, extravaganza, so on and so forth. And we're going through this list of, at the time, we're a little, Orlando, we're not that, it's arena football. We get 10, 12, 15,000 fans. It's not, NFL.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, it starts off with, the 38 special, 20 years later, that type Leonard Skinner. What about Kid Rock? What about and then all of a sudden, the owner comes in. He's like, all right, I got it. We're going to do Kiss. And I was like, we're going to what? Like, we're going to put on a Kiss show before our game. And I had produced games before. That's one thing. But he said, yeah, we're going to do it. And I said, we're going to, somebody else is going to come. No, we're going to do it. You're going to. And sure, within a couple of days, I had a rider on my desk from Kiss. It was a couple inches thick. It was a big ride. These guys have been in business for a long time. They know what the hell they want in detail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a cool experience, man. I got to drive, I drove out to the airport at 2:00 in the morning and picked them up, I literally picked up Paul, Gene, and it was again that was, the album I had when I was 6 years old. Now I'm hanging out with these guys at the airport. So again, yeah, another really cool experience. They did, meet and greets. They did an unplugged show for our fans, which was pretty cool. So they were there the whole weekend and then put on a show. We, had 30, 40,000 people and just to, have gone to that many concerts is one thing, but then to be on the back end of it and learn about how much goes into it, and, just watch these guys build, and Kiss building a Kiss stage is not, as you said, that's not a couple of boxes and some amps. That's some serious shit. So it was just cool to be, for the entire experience. It was lucky. I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah. It's a Kiss show though. It's not like easing yourself in gently, like it's starting at the top, like.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, that rider was thick. There was a lot of requests in there, but it went off great. It was a great show. The folks loved it, the fans loved it, and then, like I said, the guys ended up buying into the league, getting their own team, so they must have enjoyed it as well.
And getting to spend a bit of time with them, then what are they actually like?
They are, I mean, they've been friggin' famous for 40 years. You know what I mean? They are exactly what you would expect them to be like. They weren't they weren't rude. Gene was a little rude, but they were, superstars. They're superstars, and you knew they were superstars. So I dealt with was the manager, Doc, whatever the hell his name. I dealt with the manager quite a bit, not necessarily them directly. But I got to meet him and hang out with them a little bit. Like I said, they weren't, they were honestly, for being as famous and rich as they are, for as long as they were less dicks than I thought they would be, to be honest with you. Vince Neil is much more of a dick. Yeah.
We'll move on to the last concert you were at. So
the last I will say that again, I've been to hundreds of concerts, and a lot of it in the 90s I went nuts. If there was a grunge band that existed, I saw them live. I mean, I've seen everybody through the 90s. And then, like I said, then I worked in the industry. So I saw bands that I didn't want to see. You know what I mean? I've seen Taylor Swift. I've seen Barry Manilow. I've seen Justin Bieber. Like I've seen bands the last concert I went to, I actually took my son, which was kind of cool to kind of take it full circle. But the last concert I went to was Slayer, actually, in Orlando, Florida. And it was just before COVID. Not too long before COVID. And of all the things that I missed during COVID, I think concerts were number one on the list. I really dig live music, and again, mainly rock, mainly metal, but I'll go to anything if it's live and decent.
Yeah. I think you've proved that now by saying Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift. I think the listeners know you'll go to anything.
Again, that was my job, but still, I was there. They were on stage, and I saw them, so technically, they go on the list.
Yeah.
So like I said, I actually managed those suites in the arena for a while. So I would actually, my job was to sell the tickets. We would, subs the tickets out and sell those to other folks to come and see the show. And then I would actually manage the suites, just make sure everybody was cool, having a good time, so on and so forth. I had some clients that would buy tickets to all the events. So I just, go there and schmooze. So I saw, like I said, pretty much every show that went through the Amway Center from its opening, because I was there, day one with that building, through up till about, matter of fact, I missed Justin Timberlake at the end of 2013. He was coming, and I'd missed that one. That one I wouldn't mind seeing, actually.
He wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I'm sure he puts on a hell of a show.
Yeah. That your job obviously has some really cool upsides. What would the downsides be? So what would the not so good parts of it be?
Yeah. So I don't do it anymore, and it's for a reason. And that reason is just time. Honestly, if you're, I would sell the tickets during the day. I would, my boss basically just kind of gave it to me carte blanche. So what I would do is run ads during the day for the tickets we had. And we had quite a few, 3 suites, 20 seats in a suite. And they were sweet, so I wasn't selling them for $15. These were nice tickets. So I would sell them during the day. Anything that we had left over, I would leave the office at the end of the workday. I'd put on a jacket, nice clothes, and I would go down to the fancy club downtown, which kind of oversaw the arena, which was nice. And so I'd go there and schmooze. And I had a membership. I paid for a membership there was part of my whole thing. And I'd schmooze and I'd sell the ticket to those folks. And then any tickets I had left, the show's coming up, there's an hour left, you know what I mean? I would run downstairs, run across the street, and then go under the highway with the scalpers. And I would scalp the last of the few tickets and try. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd be up there, having champagne with the folks on one end and then slinging tickets under I-4 on the other. But I was hustling, man. And then, like I said, then whatever, once the show started, I would go inside, make sure everybody was good, had a good time. And then, a lot of times, I mean, that job got me, probably one of the most appreciative concerts I've ever been to, which was Roger Waters' The Wall. And I'm a huge Pink Floyd guy. I never got to see them. I was, so that's a show. Elton John, I got to see because of that. Paul McCartney, I got to see because of that job. One at all the shows that I didn't think I was going to enjoy and really was a really good show was Pink, actually.
Really?
Put on a hell of a show. Yeah, I get it. It was my job. My girl wanted to see him. Obviously, I was going to take her. And but by the end of the show, we were up, front stage, taking pictures, videos. Yeah, it was a hell of a show. Yeah, good time.
I've actually heard she puts on a great show. Right, my aunt is a huge fan of her. She sees her anytime she's in Ireland. But I always see her more like a rock star than a pop star. She has that whole coolness quality about her.
Oh yeah. And a lot of, it was very sexual as well, which, is something that I'm a fan of. So I had a good time. Yeah, it was good. It was a good time.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I'm more of a fan of the smaller venues. So even when I worked at the arena there, me and my buddy I would take those tickets and then trade them out with other folks in the city, that worked at the smaller venues, the other shows that I wanted to go to, like, I don't know, Mickey Avalon. You familiar with Mickey Avalon at all? Little crazy guy. Yeah. Heroin and sex and drugs and all kinds of, he's out in LA. So I would enjoy those too, the little dive bars. I love little tiny venues. I saw, matter of fact, the same place was called the Social was the name of the place. And that's where I saw the Hippie Coalition I saw there. Those guys are awesome. I saw Corey Taylor, actually, Stone Sour. And he was touring by himself. And it was a really cool show. It was a tiny, tiny little place, but he did like 30 minutes of, it wasn't stand up. It was just a little bit of stand up, but just kind of talked and told stories and so on and so forth. And then sat down and with an acoustic and then busted out for another, 45 minutes. That was a really cool show. Yeah. So big fan of the small venues.
Yeah, especially when you said that he done 30 minutes of talk and having a laugh. I love that when a performer does that. I've been to concerts before. One in particular was Chris Christopherson, and he literally, now he was in his 80s at the time, so you couldn't really blame him. But he literally walked out, picked up the guitar, straight into one song, and that was it. Song after song, there was no like talking or even a whisper in between, I prefer the performer to like at least acknowledge the audience is there, not like they're practicing in their private room at home,
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, yeah, that was a cool experience. Like I said, I didn't expect it. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew it was Corey Taylor by himself. I was like, so it's Slipknot? No. It's Stone Sour? No, it's just Corey. And it was pretty neat. Like I said, it felt like you were just kind of hanging out with Corey Taylor for a little while. And, which again, I've been lucky enough to do at another concert. I got to go backstage at a show that they were playing. Stone Sour was playing and got to hang out with him actually for a little while. And you talk about, mention the attitudes that some of these guys have. He is the, complete opposite. One of the coolest human beings that I've ever met, not to mention, someone in rock and roll. He was a joy to experience.
Yeah. He always strikes me as someone who being a rock star is a job in a sense, and once he walks off stage, he's the most down to earth, normal person. That's the way he comes across,
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly, I would say. Yeah. Down to earth more so than most of the folks that I've had the pleasure of meeting. Yeah. He's up on the list for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of minutes ago that you've seen most of the 90s grunge bands. There's one in particular I'm dying to ask about. Have you seen them?
Nirvana?
Yeah.
I haven't. That's nope. They're the one that I had. Nope. When I get asked that question, what if there was one band that you could see in all time? I always go back to Pink Floyd because I missed them at the peak. I was a huge Beastie Boys fan, and I never got to see them. And then Nirvana. Yeah, Nirvana is the one that I didn't get out of the 90s, unfortunately. No, I knew it was coming. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And ain't ever coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've been sitting here since you said it, and I was like, will I ask him? Won't I?
As soon as you started asking, I was like, oh, damn, don't go to Nirvana, man. I got the lottery for Pearl Jam. No, never got into Nirvana, unfortunately. Like I said, I would think pretty much everyone, Alice in Chains and Janes and Smashing Pumpkin. I mean, I did, like I said, Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam was interesting because like they did literally have a lottery to get tickets. They were so popular at the time.
Oh man.
Right after 10 and everything, you had to call a number at a certain time to be accepted to be able to buy tickets to the show.
Jesus.
And I'm sitting there dialing the number. I'm going to this show. Like, there's no way I'm missing this. And I'm dialing, nothing. Finally, I get mad, hang up the phone. I start walking away all pissed off. And my girl picks up the phone. It dials one time. She's like, "Here, hold on, they're on." And sure enough, we got tickets and got to see Pearl Jam. Yeah, it was a great show. Yeah,
I could imagine. They're on my list now of people I still have to see. I'm going to see. That's it. I'm going to see them. At some stage.
I would think I haven't seen them since, and I would think we talked about seeing bands later on and how it's generally, for me at least, been a letdown. The later, oddly enough, where it's not is like the harder the heavy metal is not a letdown. They're still jamming their asses off. Megadeth, Anthrax, all those guys, I get a feeling that they would be somebody that would be. I think I would enjoy seeing Pearl Jam probably more now than I even did then. To be honest with you,
yeah, probably they don't seem, but then as well they kind of seem like they look after themselves and they care enough about the music not to let it slide.
Yep. But, the opposite of the Vince Neils and the Axl Roses of the world.
Yeah. It's funny you mention older rockers being still having it. It reminded me of when I seen Metallica in 2019, and oh man, you'd think they were like 20-something-year-olds. They were hitting all the notes perfectly and the time and everything. It was just out of this world.
Yeah, they were great. That probably one of my favorite shows of all time. I saw. I was lucky enough to see the big four: Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, and Metallica in Yankee Stadium in New York.
Oh man!
And again, another just lucky situation. It was the job in Orlando. The boss sent me and this other guy, my buddy, sent us up to New York to see the show because we were just having a great year or whatever. So yeah, it was what a fucking show, man. It was great time. And then I seen Metallica not too long ago. I mean, right again, shortly before COVID, but not too long before Slayer. And again, note for note, man, those guys are precise.
Yeah.
Megadeth's another one. I love Megadeth live. Those guys, I've always enjoyed their, what Dave Mustaine's been able to do with that band. They're a lot of fun as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're another one that I'd say won't ever lose it. They seem, I've never seen them live myself, but they seem like they're just as good as when they started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen Megadeth maybe a dozen times. Yep. To me, when I first started going to show, like I went to that Motley Crue show, and again, like I said, rock in general, I was like, all right, so it's fun, it's defiant, it's there's drugs and girls, and this is cool, I like this, right? And it was probably a couple years later. I don't know specifically, and I suck with timelines, but I went to a Pantera show early on. Right. And that changed everything. Like that, really? The Pantera live up until then, I'd seen, a couple, like I said, Motley Crue and maybe even Kiss, somebody, a couple of live band, not bad shows, good shows, but nothing. When I saw Pantera and the floor open up and pits and my buddy came back with the missing a tooth from the trying to get up front. I was like, holy shit! Now this is interesting. This I want to learn more about. And again, I think I've enjoyed that aspect of rock concerts up until again until I stopped going, which hopefully I'll start going again soon.
Yeah. Would you venture into the pit nowadays?
I it's funny at that at that Slayer show, that the Big Four in New York I was telling you about. Me and my buddy are there. We're jamming out. It was Slayer was playing, and I'm kind of looking around, and I'm like, shit. I remember being at those first few shows when I was young, and I remember seeing that old guy, in the corner. And I was like, what's that old guy doing here? What the fuck's the old guy doing at a Motley Crue show? And I'm looking around Slayer, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, hey man. I was like, are we the fucking old guys now? And my buddy looks at me, he says, no, man. He's like, look at that motherfucker over there. And points direct. I mean, almost to me like he was waiting for it. And sure enough, there's a guy over there. Must have been, I swear to God, 68 years old, just fucking headbanging. I'm like, all right, cool. All right, fantastic. To answer your question, yes, but not to the level that I have in the past. I will jump in a little bit. I will definitely be one of those edge of the pit guys nowadays. And like I said, I'll swirl around. You won't catch me in the Lamb of God wall or anything. But I will. I'll mix it up here and there.
You'll enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Again, that's what I don't do is sit down at concerts. Yeah, there's no need for seats.
Exactly. They should be banned at concerts. There's no need.
I agree, 100%.
We'll move on to some of your worst concert experiences.
Like I said, it takes a lot. I've sat through some subpar concerts that just because it's live music, I enjoy it. When I think of negatives, the first thing that comes to mind, I kind of touched on it earlier, is just some of these guys that unfortunately have just gone a little beyond their capabilities or let it go, whatever. The three that come to mind right off the top of my head, I already mentioned, Vince and Motley Crue. I've walked out of a Van Halen show, later and Van Halen was, again, I was a huge Van Halen fan for years. And then Guns N' Roses, that guy, what a douchebag. That probably at all my worst experience. I had been to Guns N' Roses at their peak. I went to shows and had a great time. It was great show at the time. This is years later. Now I'm working at the arena. Now I have a responsibility at the very least to get the show going, make sure everyone's having a good time and stuff. And then in the case of Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift, I can then just remove myself and go home.
Sit back. Yeah,
exactly. Guns N' Roses was playing, and I knew that I had some rowdy suites. I had some rocker fans in there, and I didn't need anybody fighting with each other or breaking bottles over their head. So I hung out until the show started, just to make sure everything kind of went smooth. And I hung out and I hung out and I hung out. And they were supposed to come on, I don't know, whatever, 10, 15, whatever. I don't even think he showed up to the building until after 1 o'clock in the
Oh
morning.
man.
Like he wasn't. And again, I, knew some people in the building. So I kind of get updated. They're like, no, he's not even here. Like he's not even in Orlando right now. Like,
Oh, Jesus.
like they're supposed to be playing and he's not in this city. So yeah, that, I guess that all my experience is that. And, and then I got what I thought at the time was lucky enough to go to a Grateful Dead concert. And I did get to go to a Grateful Dead concert. However, me and my buddy went down and we didn't have a lot of money left. And we bought what we thought was acid so we could really get the full effect of the show. And of course it wasn't. I don't know what the fuck it was, but not only did we not trip during the Grateful Dead, but we both ended up having a horrible fucking time. So yeah, those would be my two negatives, I guess, as far as concert experiences go.
Oh, you've kind of ticked both boxes of what are the ultimate worst experiences, though. First of all, anything to do with Guns N' Roses, well, anything to do with Axl Rose, and then like shitty drugs.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, it could be worse, right? I've seen some people at concerts and at parking lots after concerts that probably have worse stories than I do, for sure. Matter of fact, at that, I think it was that Grateful Dead concert, there was a guy afterwards naked in the parking lot, just burning his shit, his clothes, and yeah, absolutely, just fucking drugs, man. They'll get you.
Yeah,
yeah. I saw the Butthole Surfers in a shitty little dive in Miami. I mean, so shit. There were guys in the back of the venue shooting up, like just sitting in the back row, just shooting up. It was.
Fuck.
Yeah, that was quite an experience as well.
Yeah, that's
but
really
again,
rough.
pretty neat show. I was, yeah.
Oh man. Before we move away from concerts you've been to, so the final concert question: what's the best experience you've had at a concert that didn't have to do with the band you were seeing?
Well, two things come to mind right away. I'm sure there's more. There's so many to go through, right? The two things that come to mind right away is, the show, Bad Counsel, of course. We just recorded episode 41. Check us out. Tim, our host, and the guy that keeps everything together, thank God. As I said, we've known each other for quite some time. And back in the day, I don't know, again, timelines are not real good, but it was quite some time ago. Tim and myself saw the band Goldfinger in, again, a very small venue. I think it was called The Kitchen. And it was the last time that I saw my very good friend Tim moshing and stage diving. And yeah, he was, absolutely. It was awesome. It's one of my favorite concert memories, period.
Really?
He was throwing elbows. Oh yeah. And there were some violent guys there. There were some of those guys that, are there just to do the pin, you know what I mean? Those guys that like the extra elbow. And he dove right into it. He got right into it. That was awesome. That was a great time. And then, oddly, I'm sure a lot of people that listen to my show are going to be surprised here, but one of my first experiences with two girls, sexually happened at a concert.
Right.
So that comes to mind as well. Yeah, it was a Red Hot Chili Peppers show, I believe. And
I love how you say you believe.
yeah, it was absolutely a Red Hot Chili Peppers show. And me and my girl, she hadn't been to many concerts, and it was one of the first ones I brought her to. And we were just all, kind of in a row. We're up towards the front, and the chick next to her just started kind of groping her. And, she's like, "Hey, this girl's kind of touching me and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And, And then, then it comes, she's like, she's trying to put her hand down my pants. And I'm like, yeah. And like,
Tell me more.
Let her. Yeah. That sounds good to me. So they ended up making out, and yeah, it was a good experience. So, and like I said, that was one of my first, it's when I realized that might be of interest to me at some point in my life.
Oh man, I need to go to a concert in America. Like if that happened in Ireland, like there'd be a fight.
I guess it depends on who you pick.
Yeah, I'm really missing out.
And then like I said, that first Pantera show, man, that just the amount of energy and energy. Like I was amazed at that, that many people in the building could get that fucking excited about anything. It was really cool. Yeah.
Oh man. They're you've definitely get an award for the best experiences I've heard anyway.
Like I said, I've been lucky. I mean, I've forced a little bit of it myself here and there, but I've really been, right place, right time. And, it's been a good path.
We'll move on now. We'll get slightly more personal, although I feel like there's no need to say that now after hearing about the threesome. But if you could see any performer from history that you haven't seen in concert, I have a feeling I know who it is. We touched on him, but who would it be?
Yeah, I did. I think I touched on it a little earlier. So as far as performance goes, the shows that I wish I had seen and didn't, and now, like I said, can't, are those three that I have been. Nirvana, that's a big one. Pink Floyd, a huge influence on my life. And then the Beastie Boys. I always wish I could have caught the Beastie Boys, and I just never did. And I just don't know that I don't think I appreciated them that much. I got introduced to the streamlined version of them right away, and didn't get into the Paul's Boutique and that kind of stuff till later on. So otherwise, I probably would have caught them back then, but. But if you gun to my head, honestly, I would say Pink Floyd, if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of people would agree with you on that. I'd love to see them myself.
Like I said, they were a huge influence on my life, a multitude of different times. And I mean, I've spent probably more nights alone tripping on the beach listening to the song Time over and over again than most people. I would venture to guess that that's probably the case. But I'm a big fan of the earlier stuff too, the crazy, Syd Barrett before he lost his shit, and see Emily play, and the Saucer Full of Secrets, that kind of stuff too. So I would have shit. If you asked which Pink Floyd, I would rather, that would be tough. You know what I mean? But yeah, that would be a Pink Floyd.
Yeah, they're one band that they have something for everyone. I feel like you'd be hard pushed to find someone that doesn't like them or had a reason to not like them,
Right. Yeah. They're hard not to not like. Yeah. Like I could see, somebody not getting The Wall and saying, no, that's not for me, or what, you know what I mean? But you can't listen to all of it. Eventually, you're going to run into something. And, to me, Dark Side of the Moon is the greatest piece of art that's ever been created on this planet, in my opinion.
It's an absolute masterpiece. There's a band actually I regret not seeing. I had the chance to see him, but things didn't work out. Had tickets, but couldn't get to go to him. The Doors, when they reformed, did you ever have any run in with them?
No, no, that would be cool. Yeah, they would probably, if I kept that list going, the Doors would probably end up on it at some point.
Yeah. No, you made me think of it there when you said a band you'd love to see, but you can't now. Obviously,
Yeah.
you can't see them either.
Yep.
But no, that would have been
they would
some
make the list
experience.
at some point. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. That guy was, I heard you and Gil talking about him. Actually, I listened to you guys
Yeah.
not too long ago. That was a cool show.
Oh, thanks.
He's an interesting cat. Yeah. Yeah, Jim Morrison was amazing. That guy was different, right?
That's one way to say it, right?
Just a different type of human being.
Yeah, I'd say he'd be interesting to spend some time with. Although I don't think it'd be very good for your health.
You would think, right? I guess it depends on who you are and what you're into. But yeah.
It'd definitely be an experience anyway.
I would think, I would think that it'd be hard to leave a hangout with Jim Morrison and have it not be considered an experience.
Yeah. This will bring us to who would you like to be locked in a room with for 24 hours? Say you had to quarantine with a performer.
I my initial reaction to that would be what I assume is a pretty standard answer. And in fact, as I mentioned, I listened to you talking to Gil, and it ended up being right off the top of my head, I would say John Lennon. That said, not only listening to some of the things you said, and some of that I've heard before, actually, it's not the first time I've heard it. There's, I guess it would be remiss of me not to, again, for the fans of my show, to say that if I had the opportunity to pull a couple of people, a person or two into a room. I mean, Debbie Harry probably wouldn't be horrible to hang out with. She would probably be a lot of fun. Morrison would be a pretty interesting dude. Honestly, I would say, if we're staying in music, if I was allowed to leave music, Hunter Thompson would actually be a pretty interesting guy to hang out with. But you'd probably fuck yourself up. But what a fucking ride that would be, right?
Yeah, I'd never actually considered that. Actually, that would be the ultimate one.
But yeah, I guess in music, and actually, I guess along the same lines, I want to experience, obviously, new shit. I want to, I would say I would love to try to spend some time with Syd Barrett. And while I'm at it, Sid Vicious probably wouldn't be a horrible person to pick his brain for a little while either. I like the off the beaten path personally. So yeah, I think that I think as opposed to trying to learn per se, I think I would want to be more entertained. So
I like your style now. They're great picks. I was one thing popped into my head actually, a throwback to a few minutes ago there. If you could to be locked in a room with, how would you think, or what would you think of Debbie Harry and Joan Jett?
Yeah, the Joan Jett's not bad. I'll take that. Yeah. I wouldn't mind. Madonna could hang if she wanted to.
Oh yeah. That'd really spice it up.
That seems a little more. It seems like I would learn a little more with Madonna, and I'm always up to learn. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
There you go. That's my answer. Madonna, Debbie Harry threesome officially. Final answer.
Again, the best answer I've heard. I think
I get the pick.
I think you're going to be like the bar I judge all future guests by.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. I don't know. I appreciate it.
And I'm actually sad to say now, the final question. If you could pick a song that would appear on the soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
I have a bit of an attitude. I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder. There are a lot of metal songs that I could pick and that come to mind. But if I had to pick one song, I would say Rockstar by NERD. That would be, yeah. Yep, that would be my that would be the song I come out to if if I was a baseball player and I was coming up to bat, that would be the song that would be playing. Yep.
Interesting choice. What is it?
Yeah.
What is it about that one that?
Just the attitude, just the this is who I am and take it or leave it. I have, those, not a lot of depth to it by any means, definitely not as thought provoking as some of the stuff that we've talked about tonight, but that to me, that's the song that should be playing. Yeah.
Great choice, great choice. Is there any message you'd like to leave the listeners with before we say goodbye?
Listen to our show. It's Bad Counsel, again, Counsel, Bad.Counsel on Instagram. It's a lot of fun. It's not for kids, but it's a lot of fun. If you have a sense of humor, and then I would assume that you'd enjoy it. And email us. The email is consultation@badcounsel.com, or you can call the show 541-604-8487 and leave us a message. And again, it's just a voicemail. So you go on there, leave a message, give us your crazy situations. We love to break it down. We love to come up with answers, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show.
Oh, brilliant. And where's the best place to find you guys to listen to?
Yeah, Instagram is definitely our home base, if you will. So again, Bad.Counsel on Instagram, and then we're on all the platforms, of course, Apple, Spotify. Pretty much anywhere you get podcasts, you can find us.
Brilliant. Well, Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been very entertaining. Thanks a million for coming on.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. Same here. It's great to finally meet you in person. And I love the show. Like I said, live music's a big part of my life, obviously. And so I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. And I love hearing folks talk about it. So keep it up, man.
Thanks, man. That's great to hear. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure. I'm glad to be on.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show is over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here.